Over the course of 18 days, the Battle of Kurukshetra will consume millions of men. The physical scale of the mobilization is staggering, with entire kingdoms parking their chariots and infantry formations shoulder to shoulder, waiting for the signal to strike. Standing at the very center of this massive Kaurava army is King Duryodhana. He is the architect of this war, and as he looks out across the field to assess the opposing Pandava forces, he makes his first move. In this specific Sanskrit text, the verse states the king physically moves, approaching his teacher, Dronacharya. On the surface, it sounds like a royal command. He directs his commander to behold the great army, maintaining the rigid posture of a monarch. But there is a structural friction in this interaction. Heads of state do not typically act as forward scouts for their own generals. If a king is rushing across a battlefield to point out enemy formations to the man hired to lead the troops, the chain of command is showing early signs of strain. Duryodhana's outward projection of authority functions as a diplomatic shield. When we analyze the specific phrasing of his upcoming speech, we can see the cracks in his royal composure as he begins to process the reality of the mobilization before him. Looking at the next verse, we see Duryodhana's first tactical maneuver. He explicitly points out that the enemy phalanx was arranged by Dronacharya's student, the son of Drupada. This is a highly calculated reference to a bitter, years-old political feud between Dronacharya and King Drupada. As a traditional teacher, Dronacharya operated under a rigid moral code. This forced a difficult compromise, imparting military secrets to the child of his enemy. The irony is absolute. That specific student, Dhrishtadyumna, was prophesied at birth to be the man who would eventually take Dronacharya's life on the battlefield. Duryodhana brings this relationship up in the final moments before combat to weaponize his commander's past. He is twisting the knife, ensuring Dronacharya feels an acute, personal threat, so the general abandons any lingering affection for his students. Following that jab, Duryodhana pivots. In texts 4 and 5, he rattles off a catalog of the enemy commanders arrayed against him, names like Yuyudhana, Virata, and Drishtaketu. Each name is filtered through a specific comparison, measured against the strength of Bhima and Arjuna. This nodal map illustrates Duryodhana's internal threat assessment. Bhima and Arjuna are the warriors who haunt him, acting as the absolute benchmarks for his internal sense of security. To cope with the weight of these names, he mentally clings to the perceived superiority of his own lead general, Bhishma, attempting to balance the scales in his own mind. This hyper-focus on individual warriors reveals a critical blind spot. By obsessing over these matchups, he misses the strategic reality of the battlefield unfolding around him. This list functions as a frantic mathematical calculation, as if Duryodhana is trying to force a sum that guarantees his own survival. When we pull back from the immediate tactical breakdown, Duryodhana's speech to Dronacharya frames a much larger collapse. It is the failed attempt of a monarch to micromanage a war he knows he lacks the moral preparation to fight. This psychological breakdown is identified in the purports of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He identifies Duryodhana's behavior as a symptom of a specific worldview. This is defined as the material mindset, a perspective entirely reliant on political maneuvering, military math, and diplomacy, while remaining devoid of spiritual insight. The Bhagwat Gita, one of history's most profound philosophical texts, begins by documenting intense human frailty, grounding its universal lessons in a flawed king's panic. Relying solely on material calculations leaves Duryodhana incapable of accurately assessing the spiritual forces arrayed against his army. He is making moves on a board he doesn't fully understand. Duryodhana's mask of political terror provides the necessary contrast for the dialogue to follow. His panic sets the tense, human stage required for the profound philosophical awakening about to occur on the opposing side of the battlefield.